For today's workout, I'm doing a landmine and backwards walking themed exercise. So I'm going to do 5 sets each of a landmine movement and then walk backwards for a minute and a half. Repeat that for 5 sets and do probably 4-5 different combinations of that. Anyway, so for the first landmine movement, I'm doing elevated toe or squats on the toes. I don't know, there should be a name for that. With one shoulder. So the landmine's on one shoulder, and instead of holding it in the center, I'm going for 5 each side. And immediately after I'm done with that, I'm going to walk backwards for a minute and 30 seconds. And then repeat this whole circuit 5 times. This is my 3rd set. So before I started this, I walked backwards for an hour, and I didn't find any reason to record that for an entire hour. Like today, I really want to, spam the backwards walking movement. Like it was feeling really good when I was doing it. Initially, I wanted to do it for 15 minutes, but then after that, because of how good it was feeling, I kept going, and then it became an hour. And I still wanted to lift weights, so I was like, all right, I'm going to superset weight training movements with a minute and 30 seconds of backwards walking, and instead of taking rest between sets, this is what I would do. So instead of taking rest between sets, I'm going to just use this minute and 30 to recuperate and take an actual break after 5 sets, but not even that much of a break. I want to keep trying to find new movements, or come up with new movements and keep doing them. So for the next movement, I'm doing Landmine Suitcase deadlifts, and I'm going to go for 5 each side. Those always feel good on the core. And then sticking with backwards walking on the treadmill for a minute and 30. So this way I'm doing a relatively heavy movement that gets my heart rate going. And in the case of the deadlift, it's more a posterior chain dominant movement, and walking backwards seems to be a more quad dominant movement. And so I'm able to go relatively heavy on the landmine suitcase deadlifts, and I'll probably go a little heavier on the next set. And what that will do is get my heart rate super high and get my posterior chain super fatigued. But then by doing a relatively less taxing movement, I'm able to take some tension away from the hamstrings and also bring my heart rate down a little, but then go into doing the suitcase deadlifts again, which will raise my heart rate up. So it's kind of like getting those short bursts of high heart rate and like strength training, but then keeping that heart rate relatively high and not letting it dip by doing backwards walking. So that's my general concept for the workout today, is to kind of do regular cardio, but also pair in these landmine movements. Again, it just feels good. It is more leg based at the moment, and I think I'm going to stick to that. However, I might throw in some other body parts in a bit. But yeah, this is the next superset. So for the third circuit, I'm making a little difference with the treadmill. I'm gonna walk, so on the highest setting, this almost acts as like a perpetual or infinite sled. And I'm gonna push forward for a minute, walk backwards for 30 minutes, and then do the sled movement. So it acts similar to a sled forward push. I'm trying to get my toes to contact. And also the shape of the treadmill is such that you can only land with your toes. And so as my toes connect with the treadmill, I feel a stretch going through my big toe into my calves. And then I'm using a mixture of my quads, hamstrings, and glutes to drive the treadmill's, belt backwards. And it feels in some ways better and in some ways worse than doing the sled. I know the sled seems more real life-ish, where it moves depending on how much you're driving with what leg. It actually changes direction, but here it's always straight. Anyway, and then supersetting that with 30 seconds of backward walking, and then I'll do the landmine movement after. But yeah, even with the backwards walking, what I'm thinking about is contacting the belt with my toes first and pushing with the VMO. Like, I'm consciously trying to think of pushing with the inner quad VMO area and trying to imagine the different muscles contracting. Anyway, after the 1 minute of pushes and 1 minute of or 30 seconds of backwards walking, doing perpendicular landmine deadlifts but in a staggered position. Going for 5 each side. But yeah, that's what I'm doing next. Minute walking forward, or minute push forward, 30 seconds backward walk, and then staggered perpendicular deadlifts. So for the next landmine movement, I'm doing man, this recording contraption is a pain in the ass. I don't know how to keep it. I'm just gonna have it draped around me like this. Hopefully it doesn't come in the way of the landmine. Anyway, so for the landmine movement, I'm doing a landmine hack squat. Looks like this. So you want to bring the landmine up to your shoulder, and rest it, and then you want to lean back into it and take whatever stance you feel comfortable. Right now I'm choosing like a narrow stance, and yeah, pretty much squat all the way down and come back up, going for 6 each side. After hitting 6, so switching sides. But yeah, that's what I'm doing for the landmine movement. And for the treadmill, I'm sticking to 1 minute push and 30 seconds backwards. So for the next exercise, which is going to be the last, it's a skater squat, I believe is what it's called. But I don't know if it would be called a skater deadlift, since you'll see. So for me personally, I think a deadlift is anytime you're picking up something off the floor. And so a skater squat usually is where you squat like this, but this time I'll be dropping the weight. So look something like this. So holding the landmine in a double-handed grip and having the feet placed wide apart, going down and letting the landmine touch the floor, and then switching sides, going for 5 each side. Really good movement for the inner legs, groin area. And instead of doing the treadmill this time, I'm going to superset that with staggered landmine squats. So I'm going to go for 5 each side. Switch sides. Gonna do 5 sets of that, and then I'm out of here. No posing and stuff tonight. It's already pretty late. Yeah, so that's all for today's video. See you all in the next one.